Discovering Alabama is a production of the Alabama Museum of Natural History.
This program is about a land unknown to many people, a land that in many ways has escaped the hustle and bustle of modern civilization, a place with bountiful backcountry and forests, streams, and wildlife more diverse than can be found in much of the inhabited world. Come along with me as we explore the natural wonders of this land. Come along with me as we discover Alabama. Hi, I'm Doug Phillips. Welcome to Discovering Alabama. To begin this show, let's take a moment to relive an event in early Alabama history. The year is 1864, and the Civil War is in full tilt. The Union General William Sherman is preparing for what will become his famous march across Georgia, burning and destroying Confederate property. Sherman and many of his troops are camped somewhere near the northern border of Alabama and Georgia. In the meantime, a group of Union soldiers, under the leadership of General Andrew May, are headed southeast across the northern portion of Alabama to join Sherman. Their advance scout is leading the way. To their great surprise, General May and his men found their route blocked by an awesome canyon, a canyon so deep and so long that attempts to find a path across it failed, whereupon the Union troops were caught from behind by Confederate soldiers closing in pursuit. General May and many of his troops survived the ensuing battle and in later reports named the canyon May's Gulf. Today we know this remarkable feature as Little River Canyon, the Grand Canyon of the South. We're up on Lookout Mountain, not far from where Little River begins. To the west of us is Wills Valley, and to the east of us is Coosa Valley, two major valleys that run either side of Lookout Mountain. The early word for Lookout Mountain was Chattanooga. That was an Indian word, which meant rock coming to a point. And that's exactly what Lookout Mountain does up in Tennessee near the town of Chattanooga. From this point on Lookout Mountain, you can see three states. You see Alabama, of course. We're up in the northeastern corner of Alabama. Further northeast, you can see Georgia. And way over that way, you can see Colorado. Not really. Tennessee, of course. You might expect the river to flow down in the valley. Not so, Little River. It starts on the top of this mountain. Little River begins way back up here in the woods on top of Lookout Mountain, not far from the Georgia line. At this point, the waters increase in volume as they begin their southward journey. Little River is the only river in the United States that forms and flows almost entirely on top of a mountain. From its origins near the state line in western Georgia to its terminus above Gadsden at Weiss Lake, Little River flows down the top of Lookout Mountain for a distance of nearly 50 miles. In its upper reaches, Little River is composed of two main forks. The greater length of the East Fork is within Alabama, and its waters wind past several interesting places. Not far into Alabama, the river flows through the town of Mentone, a pleasant community with all the appeal of mountaintop living. A few miles south of Mentone, the river takes a plunge of over 100 feet at Desoto Falls. In the 1800s, this spectacular spot was known as Indian Falls, and some have questioned the later name change, since many historians believe that Hernando de Soto crossed Alabama farther to the east and never actually encountered the falls. In 1934, the privately owned area around DeSoto Falls was donated to the state for use as a park. In 1935, the federal government provided the state with an additional 2,000 acres, and DeSoto State Park was established. The park headquarters are located about 6 miles below DeSoto Falls and offer hiking trails, picnic areas, and overnight cabins. Further downstream, the east and west forks of Little River merge and continue a southward journey. One remnant of early cultural history in the canyon area is the old Edna Hill Church, established around the turn of the century. If you listen real close on the right afternoon, you can still hear the voices of some of the early congregation.
Shall we gather at the river where bright angel feet have trod with its crystal tide forever going by the throne of God? Yes, we'll gather at the river.
A few miles below its midpoint, the river takes its second major plunge as it drops 60 feet over Little River Falls and into the head of the immense gorge known as Little River Canyon. We're here at Little River Falls, several miles down the Little River, and joining us today at this point is Mr. Doyle Benefield. Doyle was superintendent of DeSoto Park for how many years, Doyle?
Oh, about 11 years.
Until he retired. He's now got life made. In a little bit, Doyle is going to enter the canyon and begin a trek all the way down it. I've got a surprise in store for him. I'm going to join him a little ways down, and then he and I together are going to continue the trek as we explore Little River Canyon. While we're at this point, though, Doyle, we might discuss a little bit about how the canyon was formed, and in particular, how the falls were formed. You got any theories on that?
Oh, a couple of theories that I remember hearing is that the canyon area had a thin crust of rock over it, and this caved in, forming the canyon as we know it today. Another one was that there was an upheaval of some sorts, and when the mountain was formed, it left this crack, and the water flows in it now to form the canyon.
I've been told also that these falls actually began several miles south of here when the Appalachian Mountains rose. That raised this part of Alabama too, and as the water began to flow down, it went over the falls several miles south, but because of the nature of the rock, basically shale, sandstone, it continued to eat away at the rock, and the falls themselves have moved all the way upstream. You believe that?
I think it's possible. You could have started several miles down. There's evidence below the falls here that the rock is peeling off.
Continuing to crumble and drop off.
Yes, yeah.
Wonder how long it's going to be before this rock we're standing on.
I don't know. Hope it's not today.
Maybe we better get started with the
Okay.
rest of the day. All right, Doyle. Be watching for me now. I'm going to see you on downstream, okay?
Okay.
All right. Little River Canyon began forming after Lookout Mountain rose into existence over 300 million years ago during the Mississippian period of geologic time. Today it extends for almost 15 miles and has walls that rise to a height of approximately 800 feet in some places. In 1954, the name Little River Canyon was made official, and the length of Little River within the canyon, together with a major portion of the canyon's western rim, were designated as part of DeSoto State Park. Hey, Daw! Wait there! If this frightens you viewers at home just a little bit, you can imagine how it makes me feel. Woo! It's a free fall from here on. You ready to catch me? Hey, buddy.
I'm glad that was you and not me.
Oh, I feel much better now.
I think I'd rather take the easy way down.
Well, that's the easy way. You can just get over the jitters, I'll tell
No, I
you.
mean holding on to a tree.
I tried to grab one or two. There wasn't anything to grab. Oh, well, this is a pretty spot in the canyon.
It sure is.
We say I get out of this garb and we go explore a little bit of it.
All right.
Well, Doyle, before we get too far down into the canyon near the river, look what we found up here.
This looks like a rattlesnake master plant. It grows pretty much all over.
Yeah, you know, where this plant's growing reminds me of the habitat of another plant that grows in this area that's an endangered species, Sarracenia aureophila, which is otherwise known as the green pitcher plant. And it's really a very endangered plant because it only lives in this part of Alabama and a part of northwest Georgia that we know of. It's the only remaining habitats of that plant. And this is one of the last suitable places for that plant to survive. Look at here, Doyle, in this clearing, got some beautiful butterfly weed. Bright orange plant. Asclepia tuberosa is its name. It's in the milkweed family. It's called butterfly weed because it attracts butterflies. Some people call it chigger weed, I guess, because when they get close to it, the chiggers get on them from this particular plant, but I think it gets a bad name for no good reason. It's really a beautiful, beautiful plant. Come on, Turk. And this one might get a little wet right there. I have seen a few copperheads in here in years gone by. Turkey got bit by one time, right on the lip. I had to grab him up in my arms and rush him down to the Fort Payne vet. But he recovered all right.
Here's a sweet birch tree.
Sweet birch.
Sweet birch. Look right here. Now smell that.
Ah, that is sweet.
Okay, it grows, as far as I know, grows near the river, up and down the little river, and
One of the few places it does grow in Alabama.
that I know of, and the beavers like to chew on it, and you can tell why there because it has a good odor.
Is this the, there we go,
Seed pod or
seed on it. Get one more whiff. Okay, I'm ready.
all right.
Look at this, Doyle. That's one sizable hydrangea.
Yeah, it is. For some reason, the leaves on the plants, especially hydrangeas, seem larger here in the canyon. It must be soil competing for light or whatever. What's your opinion on it?
I'm sure that having to compete for light contributes to it. Look at the size of that thing. That's a big
It's a big
hydrangea
leaf.
leaf.
Yeah.
Come on, turkey booger. Come on, Turk. That's a good place to rest up there, Doyle. See if we can get up on it. King of the Big Rock. Turk, can you get up here? Huh? Come on, hop up here. Ah, this is an interesting viewing point from right here. And there's an interesting point from up on the edge. How many overlooks are there, Doyle, in the canyon?
Oh, there's 5 nice ones, good ones. 4 of those are Canyon View Point, Wolf Creek Point, Eberhardt's Point, and Crow Point, which is the highest point from an overlook.
And Crow Point, oh yeah, that's one of my favorite overlooks. In fact, I've seen a big flock of crows up there one time or another. But you know, crows are not the only bird that enjoy this canyon. The peregrine falcon, which is an endangered species, has been known to range through here. And we're lucky in Alabama to have the peregrine fly through at times. It's a very interesting bird. You know, Doyle, the ruggedness of the canyon prohibits a lot of big critters from living within the canyon itself. But there's one interesting lesser creature, the green salamander, that inhabits the environs of Little River Canyon. And it's an endangered species. It's so rare that you can't find it under just every rock. It might be under this rock, but we'd probably have a tough time turning it over to find out. You know, while we're up here, this is a good little place to take a break. We sit down over here and rest our feet. You know, Doyle, we were talking earlier about the efforts to build that little log dam so they could float timber downstream. I imagine when the white man came into this territory, there were all kinds of efforts to make some kind of profit off the canyon. Not too far back in history, I remember there was even a scheme to build a big dam on this river and flood part of the canyon, which would be a shame. But prior to the white man's arrival, this canyon as a natural area was pretty special to the Indians.
Yeah, this area was the last home of the Cherokee Indians, and canyon, hills, and valleys of this area was a part of their hunting preserve.
In the early 1800s, Little River Canyon and several surrounding counties were the legally owned property of the Cherokee Indians. The Cherokees were a peaceable tribe who developed towns and farms and often helped the white settlers. The white man, however, was not so helpful in return. In 1830, the U.S. government passed what was called the Indian Removal Act. Within years thereafter, the Cherokees were rounded up and placed in several stockades, one of which gave rise to the nearby town of Fort Payne. From these stockades, the Cherokees were taken westward out of Alabama on the infamous Trail of Tears. This forced march, which lasted up to 5 months, is a tragic and sorrowful event in the history of our state. Subjected to brutality and starvation, nearly 4,000 Cherokees died along the way, never to see their promised new lands in the West. You know, Doyle, legend has it that sometime after the Cherokee were forced out of this part of the state, a lone Cherokee Indian used to appear on a bluff overlooking the canyon.
Yeah, I've heard that this Indian appeared on the bluff on the anniversary date of the Trail of Tears.
You know, I always look for that Indian when I come through here, Doyle, and right up on that point is where I always expect to see him. Ah, well, we better move on down the trail, I guess. I guess that Indian story is just a legend. I've never seen him. Well, you're a rock hound today, aren't you? Come on. This looks like a good swimming hole. It's cold and deep. It's pretty. This would be a nice trout fishing day, wouldn't it?
Yeah, if there was trout in there, there's every kind of fish except trout.
Like what?
Bass, both largemouth and smallmouth, and some rock bass. Brim, catfish, and I understand there's some carp in there too.
It was stocked with trout at one time.
Yes,
Wasn't it?
several times it's been stocked with trout, but the water gets too low and too hot in late summer for them to survive.
It's a pretty cold water stream, but it just gets too warm in the summertime.
That's right.
Oh. Yeah, let's push on. Well, let's move on down this rocky country. Speaking of rocky country, look at what's got a hole in the rocks here, Doyle.
Looks like a
Look
snake.
at that. Looks like a snake. A sycamore. The limb comes right out down near the water. The branch does, the root. And right on up to the tree. How about that?
It goes a long way to get into that water.
I've always loved sycamores. I really have. They're a beautiful tree to me. Yeah, Doyle. Might as well use this spot to talk about this. We got a healthy example of it. Scratch the stem. What color is it?
Yellow.
What does that make it?
Yellow root.
Right, yellow root. Big stand of it here.
It'll stain you.
Yeah, it sure will. This has medicinal properties. Some people still use it, but from the old days, it's reputed to be good for mouth ulcers, and some people even say stomach ulcers. But all I know is it's bitter to chew on.
It is.
Okay, this is a pretty stretch of river along this part of the canyon. Rocks, rocks, rocks. Let's get on this big rock.
This is pretty sight.
I would hate to see this area ruined, Doyle. I know you would too. An important aspect of Little River Canyon that for ages has made it special to many people is the unaltered wild and natural character of the canyon area. In more recent times, however, the canyon has experienced some alteration to its natural character, as in the case of a commercial chairlift and amusement park located on the canyon rim.
We hope that we're not totally commercializing. We are proud of the area, and we like to show it off, and we like to tell the whole United States of America about it. In fact, we're about to develop a parkway called Lookout Mountain Parkway that will come near to this park and near to Little River Canyon.
Some feel that such commercial development detracts greatly from the unique qualities of the canyon, and they fear that it sets a bad precedent for the future. With private efforts currently underway to develop a housing subdivision along almost 7 miles of the canyon's eastern rim, fears about possible future threats to the area may be valid, as we hear expressed by the DeKalb County Health Department.
The people of DeKalb County and Cherokee County, the native people here, think Little River Canyon is a gift of God to us as far as scenic beauty is concerned, and we love the canyon and we love the natural beauty of it. But also from a professional standpoint, I'm concerned about pollution of the stream. There is development proposed all along Little River Canyon here on the Cherokee County side. There is a shallow depth of rock in this area. Therefore, we don't feel like that it's suitable for subsurface disposal septic tanks. We feel like that if septic tanks are installed here, then it will get in crevices of the limestone rock or on top of the rock itself and pollute the stream itself, therefore creating a public health hazard as well as a scenic beauty problem as far as the canyon is concerned.
While nearly everyone agrees that Little River Canyon is an outstanding natural feature, the question of where to draw a limit on encroaching commercial development appears to be yet unanswered. But some folks who know the canyon best have a definite opinion.
If it were left up to me, I'd say stop right now. I'd hate to see it ruined.
That concludes our journey down Little River Canyon. I'd like to thank Doyle Benefield for joining us today.
Thank you for asking me.
You've certainly enhanced the trek, Doyle. I'd like to thank you viewers for tagging along with us too. One final word. For those of you who may come to Desoto Park or Little River Canyon, please stop by the park headquarters and find out what the rules and regulations are. There are some, and they go towards helping to preserve the integrity of the canyon and the park. Also, we'd appreciate hearing your comments. If you enjoyed the show, please send your opinions and comments to Discovering Alabama, Box X, University, Alabama, 35486. So, until we meet again, keep your canyon clean. We need to make a correction regarding last month's program about the Cahaba River. We mentioned one canoe rental shop near the Cahaba, but failed to also mention Limestone Park Canoe Rental, which is located halfway between Montevallo and Centerville on County Road 65 and offers a variety of canoe trips down the river. We regret the error and are happy to set the record straight.
The preceding program was funded in part by a grant from Barber Dairies, a producer of milk and ice cream products since 1931.